Now we're looking at Incident by Countee Cullens, a very famous poem. It was published in a really important book of poems called Color in 1925. So here's my question for you. Does the choice of form, the choice of poetic form in this poem, enhance or detract from its message? Does the choice of form help the message or hurt the message? Okay, let's take a preliminary vote, and you are not committed to this position. You can change at any time. Max, does the form of the poem enhance the message?
I think in this case it hurts the message.
It hurts. We're going to come back to you. Molly?
I think it enhances it.
Enhances it. We already have a disagreement. Anna, I know the answer. The answer is it hurts.
It does.
Okay. Hardline modernist
Hardline
over here.
modernist,
Okay.
Enhances.
Enhance. 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 Enhance.
All right, Max, here we
Okay,
go.
Max.
All right, Max.
You and Anna, why does it detract? Let's get started.
You want to kick it off or shall I?
I think Max should kick it off.
I think it hurts the steadiness. It's in this case I think so confining, and I think this poem is really about not being so confined. I mean, his whole issue here is that all he can remember is when he tried to go up to this boy and he was, just treated with an epithet, and that was it. And that's all he was after that. And so he was completely sort of boxed in, pigeonholed. And I think in some respect, though, I've been, arguing about that other poems have been subversive in their use of form. I think in this one, it seems almost like almost a capitulation, and it's sort of the exact capitulation that he is, or that we want, or at least I want him to be working against.
Good, thank you. Anna?
I think the obvious argument against what Max just said is that, oh no, it's so great because
You've got a majority of people to make that argument.
No,
You're starting with a counter argument. Okay.
I'm going to
You're
agree
giving them
with
something.
Max in the end.
All right,
Don't
use
worry.
whatever strategy you like. Go ahead.
But the obvious thing is no, it's so great because they put him in a box and they put him away, and then he puts the poem in a box, but then you can't put that away because of the use of
That's an argument they would make. Now
Yeah,
make your
I
own
think so.
argument.
But
Let them make
but
their
for me,
argument.
what this does is he's had this formative experience. This is all that he
To
can
be
remember.
sure, yeah.
This is definitely kind of like one of those moments in this kid's life that he is going to remember
the
forever.
moment. Yep.
And he does it in a traditional form. I mean, if this is really like a defining moment, you should find a new way to express it, a way that's independent and unique to you. I hesitate to use the word unique. but
So he's having a life-changing experience, but he tells it in a way that's completely hackneyed.
think about Let Us Describe. That's a life-changing experience.
And she makes it
And
new
she
at
makes
the
it
end.
totally new.
Okay, good. You've made your own case very well. You've made their case not as well, but let's see what they do with it. Molly, since we're over here on this side.
I think it really works because the form puts us in the head of an 8-year-old child because it's in that form of nursery rhyme or ballad.
The form is a ballad.
But then,
How is it rhymed?
it's not A-B, A-B-C-B.
ABCB.
Yep.
And the meter? Let me recite the most metrically regular stanza, and then you tell us the meter.
4-3.
I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December, of all the things that happened there. That's all that I remember. I'm sorry for that. That stanza is extremely powerful for me and has on occasion, pushed me to the point of tears. But I exaggerated the meter just to emphasize its regularity. What is the meter?
It's 4-3.
4-3-4-3. Mm-hmm. So that's a meter that we use where and what other kinds of expression?
In nursery rhymes.
Nursery rhymes. This is a bit pub-like, a little less church-like, but very much nursery rhymes. So you're in danger of helping Anna's point because
Well, I wasn't done.
Oh, you weren't going to? Okay.
I was gonna say it puts us in that mode, that childlike mode where he's riding along and it's bouncy and it's playful, and then all of a sudden you have this really hard word and this very traumatic experience, and it sort of shocks you from the poem.
When you read the word bigger, and you know that the stanza, as a reader, this is reader experience I'm asking about now, and you know the stanza, it needs to rhyme bigger, and there's really only one way. There's only one word, and it's got to be even by Countee Cullen, who seems to have had this experience, or this kind of experience as an African American. We know that epithet is coming. We know there's a rhyme. Even then, we have to put it in quotes just to sort of try to create a distance for ourselves. It's even today, maybe especially today, an extremely hard word to hear, and it's rhymed. So it's participating in rhetoric and formality of coherence and harmony. So you would say, I know what Anna would say about that. How dare you put a word like that in a way to create a kind of harmony and coherence and positive oral resonance? What would you say about it as a rhyme?
I would say that it's an example of subverting the mode, of using that mode to say something very powerful about that experience.
Let's stay with the N-word. So does anybody, you all believe that the form of the poem enhances its content. So you have to argue that his deployment of the N-word works. How do you want to do that, Allie?
Well, I mean, I actually didn't have that experience reading it of expecting the rhyme.
Just, are you naive, or?
Maybe, who knows? I just don't.
How about
I think
December and
retains-
remember? You knew
I
that was
think-
coming. What other word rhymes with December?
It's a good question, but
September.
Not really.
November.
I don't know. I think that it retains its power, and I also think that, you know, having it in this kind of form that's normally very happy-go-lucky and innocent, it just makes the word nigger all the more jarring, which I think echoes, you know, just the jarring quality of the incident.
So
in
rhyming
itself.
makes it jarring? That's paradoxical to me. Dave, help us here with the N-word.
Well, I think the word is so powerful that it points out how powerful it is, because I'm trying to riff off what you said about the rhyming, because it is so unexpected, and it points out how weird it is. I mean, I think...
What's weird is not, I think I want to disagree with you. What's weird is that it's not jarring. What's memorable about this poem is that the use of that word is not jarring. It fits. You go along in, you know, established conventions, American conventions of rhetoric, nursery rhyme rhetoric. You go along and the word comes and it goes and it rhymes. And that's what's jarring. Not that it's jarring. I don't find it jarring at all. I find the rhyme takes the jarringness out of it, and that's what's so disconcerting.
I disagree with that to an extent, because I find the word always jarring.
Yeah.
And the rhyme does smooth it out, but I think the point of the nursery rhyme form is to make it memorable. If we use the Trojan horse analogy, this more than anything else, it's something I can picture
makes
Max
it
singing in a bar,
memorable.
like a nursery rhyme,
Right.
repeating it, and it just carries with it such a powerful message, but it's in such a memorable, repeatable
So
format.
you
Right.
don't think that rhyming it dilutes it at all?
I think you could certainly say it trivializes it, but in a larger sense, by making it in this accessible form, it makes it more memorable. It makes it, broader application.
So, Amaris, we have here the speaker is either 8 or just after 8 years old, looking back on it. So maybe he's 9, maybe he's 10, maybe he's 35, remembering, okay? Which is it, by the way, do you think? Just look at the words.
How old he is?
How old is the speaker remembering? It's not present tense, so he's not 8.
I imagine him still quite young.
Why?
because of
What
the-
evidence do you have?
Because of the tone of the poem, the rhyming
Ah,
quality.
that's that. But this is where you may be feeding into Max and Anna's argument. I think
I've
when
seen
you
that
say,
argument.
when a speaker says, "I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December, of all the things that happened there. That is the rhetoric of someone looking back, not 6 months later, but years later. That those things that happened, of all the things that happened back then, the only thing I remember is this experience of racist hatred.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I remember. I'm sorry to bamboozle you on that. I do think this is looking back.
No, I
So here's
I
the
do
que-
think he's very mature when he's
So here's the
writing it.
question I want to ask you then about that. How can you make the case that you're making that the stanza form enhances the content when this is an adult writing deliberately, faux naivete, writing deliberately in a child's verse, which takes the maturity, complexity, and sophistication out of the experience? This person at 35 has a chance to narrate this or to tell this in an extremely nuanced and complex way, but chooses to tell it in the simplest way possible. Maurice?
I think it derives its heartbreaking power from the tone of it. So the fact that it is so sing-songy and carefree, we don't see that coming, and we're placed in the head of the child, as Molly was saying. So the word stands out to us, but him, it's part of just the social environment, and it only gains that sort of insidious toxin over time that we can understand what nigger means socially. For him, is just at that point a word that he's been labeled, and he's not quite aware of its implications.
I want to ask Anna and Max one more question, and then I want to talk about the ending, maybe invite Emily to help me figure out the ending. So you guys have one more shot at this. What would you suggest as an alternative? You were hinting at it before, to this. You must, I take it that your argument is partly, Countee Cullen must somehow acknowledge, be self-conscious of the choice of simple, super simplistic form, a form that's simple to describe a heartbreakingly complex event. Why choose a simple form to tell a complex story? You must acknowledge that your form is simplifying it. What suggestion do you have? How could this thing have been written to create that self-consciousness or to give evidence of it?
Well, I think in a way that is, and it's a little bit tough because this is probably an experience that a number of Black people had in this time.
To be sure.
But I think that it doesn't mean that this experience is the only experience that is possible.
But I ask you a specific question. How would you rewrite the poem? Or how would you ask Cullen, if you're a collaborator, to acknowledge the complexity, the possible distance between the form and the content? Do you have an idea, Max? We'll come back to you, Anna. Do you have an idea?
I think that I would ask for something that's more almost jagged or detracted, or this moment is such like a slap in the face for him,
right.
As a young boy, that it almost demands that
So-
the poem be sort of
Broken.
follow that, broken.
Right,
be
so we have a
disappointed.
situation in which innocence, this is Blakean, innocence leads to experience. The innocence uses, Cullen was very much influenced by Wordsworth, so this is almost a Wordsworthian ballad, a ballad of innocence of a young person, and in Wordsworth you have a sort of a person who comes from the provinces, a young, naive, provincial person who comes to the big city and carries along with him the simple ballad of the people, the peasant ballad. Okay? So it's very Wordsworthy in that sense. But it's a modern poem, and so you might have this thing happen and this horrible rhyme take place, and then have all the rhymes fall apart. I'm kind of answering your question for you. Have the whole thing formally break up to acknowledge the fact that that innocence, the formal innocence of the ballad, must be destroyed.
It's over.
It's over in the sense that Stein does at the end of that poem. So a reasonable, well, it's an offensive thing to ask of someone who wrote a classic poem and is not able to revise it, but that we're just having a friendly conversation about the kind of poetry that we might prefer. And later in this course, we're going to be reading a poem by Amiri Baraka called Incident, in which that kind of collapse takes place.
Right.
So I finally turned to Emily about this. So we didn't revise the last stanza. And it goes like this. Heartbreakingly, I'm so affected by this poem, though I share some of the doubts that you guys have. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. How does the rhyme affect you as a reader? How does it work? Let's talk about that.
Well, it's sort of a predictable rhyme, right? And
Totally predictable rhyme.
if you just think about this as, well, rhyme in general and the ballads and memory rhymes as sort of mnemonic devices to
Yes.
use something that's supposed to stimulate memory by talking about the impossibility of certain types of memory is
Wow.
really sad.
I'm so glad I asked you this question. Wow. Yes, the rhyme means memory in the pub ballad sense and the nursery rhyme sense. Nursery rhymes are about things you should remember, right? They have morals to them. And the moral of this story is not the N-word, the bigger nigger rhyme. It's the December remember rhyme. Rhyme is about memory. You'll never forget this. You'll never forget the poem. Remember me, it's saying. Bear witness. Be part of the chain of witness. And the rhyme enables that.